Hello, you sexy people. How y'all doing? It's your boy Proftrof. We're back again with another animal fact video. Let us proceed. Animals that got the middle finger from evolution.
Evolution is a name Emily. That's it. That's the whole intro.
That's it.
Don't get me
Emily.
wrong. The concept of evolution is pretty cool. It's
Hi,
the
Emily,
reason
not
giraffes get to
personal.
flex their high in the entire animal kingdom. But there are just times where nature and evolution decide to team up and absolutely hoe an
Okay.
animal's entire existence. So here are 10 animals that I personally think got done to
Let's
dirtiest.
go.
It's not
Top
exactly
10,
in
baby.
order, but obviously
Oh,
some animals
yeah.
are going to get violated more flagrantly than others. And I say that because if this list were actually in order, the octopus would probably medal at the Oppression Olympics for, well, let me explain. Octopus are highly intelligent and scientists believe they have the
They're
same
awesome,
cognitive
right?
ability as a 2-year-old human. Which might not seem impressive, but that means octopus are on the same IQ level as some dogs. They're even smart enough to use tools, whether it's using the tentacles of the venomous man of war as a weapon, which they actually do,
And we've seen them use their tentacles for other things as well. Very good.
or carrying a coconut around to keep as a travel-sized panic room. But being smart is the only thing they have going for them.
Damn, looking
First
like
of
a
all, most
shriveled
octopus come
penis.
into the world as orphans. The mother octopus will spend months guarding and washing her nursery of up to 50,000 eggs. Since it's too dangerous to leave them
What?
alone, since there's no daycare underwater, she often won't eat the entire time. Which means once the clutch of eggs are finally ready to hatch, the mother is shriveling, starving, and ready to become initials on a Twitter bio. Struggle doesn't end there. In fact, that's when it starts. These babies the size of a grain of rice have to figure out life in an ocean full of animals that'll actually try to put an
Hey bro, that's already better than like 50% of the animal kingdom, right? At least their mother doesn't eat the babies. You would think that would be rare in the animal kingdom. Turns out it's not that rare.
to it. It's so bad that out of the 50,000 children, if more than 2 survive to adulthood, it's considered
Wow.
overachieving. That honestly wouldn't
Damn.
be a big deal if nature didn't already nerf them with their lifespan. It's so ridiculously short that a majority of octopus species that live life to the fullest still won't be alive for their first birthday.
Wait,
Being an
how
octopus
short
means
is
you
it?
can be born on New Year's, have a midlife crisis by June, only to be a memory by October. Giving an animal high intelligence just to cut its life after 1 to 2 years just seems like an intentional dick move. And because they have no shell or no armor, they'd honestly be lucky to live that long. Having no real way to defend themselves means a good
Oi.
number of them end up a sea lion's chew toy or a dolphin's
Damn,
frisbee.
bro, you got bitched
To be
out
fair,
by
octopus do have camouflage. In some cases, highly toxic venom. But for the most part, they get bodied by most of the ocean. And to add insult to injury, every octopus you
Look at this dolphin. Why does it look like it's smiling in the creepiest way possible? Look at this dude.
see is probably
this
a virgin
dude.
because once they get laid, they die. We already saw what happens to the mother, but where did daddy at?
What's wrong with that?
Once the male octopus mates, he basically just gives up on life. The male octopus that's catched in his V-card will swim around catatonically until he either gets torn apart by predators or dies of starvation as his body falls apart due to senescence. Not like it really matters because most female octopus are bigger than the males and sometimes they'll attack and cannibalize him during. But one thing's for sure, if his date doesn't
Wait.
put him out of commission,
During the
and sometimes they'll attack and cannibalize him during. But one thing's for sure, if his date doesn't put him out of commission, his post-nut clarity will. Octopus don't live long, but for the months they're alive, their entire existence is a jihad. Now you
Wait.
know why Squidward could
Wait, octopus live for only 6 months? No, that can't be right. Oh, some species live as little as 6.
For the months they're alive, their entire existence is a jihad.
Wow.
Now you know why Squidward couldn't give a if a paid him. But at least with
Wow.
the octopus, it just seems to be
thought it was
really
longer.
bad luck. They may be a
Jesus
victim of
Christ.
circumstance, but at least you get the idea that nature didn't go out of its way
Damn.
to screw them. Not like with this bird. Kiwi bird is probably the best
Kiwi.
proof that evolution ain't perfect.
But it's
This
cute.
tiny bird is actually part of the rat
Kinda.
type family. And this cookout includes ostriches, emus, cassowaries, and the
Scary
ree.
shit.
But unlike its bigger cousins, this bird that shares its name with a fruit is about 18 inches tall and no more than 7 pounds. It's kind of like having cousins 6'3", 6'4", and 6'6", yet you came out looking like Tory Lanez. Like your family's tall enough to fit in an NBA locker room, yet you get it from a chair and stay the same height. But of course, nature wasn't done screwing with this bird because like its relatives, they can't fly. Totally flightless, and despite being related to ostriches, a Jurassic reject, and a bird that literally won a war against
Jurassic
Australia,
reject.
Kiwi's about as defenseless as the fruit that got named after it. Basically, you're looking at a bird that
That's
can't
right.
bird. The kiwi is such light
Fruit's
work that
good.
they can only survive on islands without any mammalian predators because they're really a couple stray cats away from being put in the history books.
Ah.
And somehow, that's not it.
Hey bro, retreat.
And somehow, that's not it. Because nature shrunk everything about this bird. Everything except the eggs they have to push out of their body. Despite being about 60 times smaller, kiwis have to deal with eggs nearly the same size as an ostrich's.
Damn,
and at 20% of its body weight, that would be like the average woman birthing a 35-pound baby, with the same equipment. It's such a hell to live that the egg actually rearranges the bird's organs and stretches its rib cage. There's too many things wrong with them for me not
I mean, I know some women like getting their organs rearranged.
to think nature had serious beef with this bird. especially when you realize the kiwi's closest ancestor was the elephant bird, which was about 10 feet, 1,600 pounds.
That thing thick,
so
though.
yeah, they got nerfed bad. At least they didn't get hit as hard as, say, the sloth. For being completely honest here, the sloth has almost nothing going for it. Because they insisted on eating nothing but leaves, their diet makes them one of the slowest animals on the planet. Because they physically can't afford to spend energy they don't have, because going into debt would mean death. It's to the point where baby sloths have to quite literally hold on for dear life, because if it falls to the jungle floor, the mother likely won't waste the energy trying to get it back. And that's because if you're a sloth, leaving this tree is the most dangerous thing you'll ever do. Sloths only poop about once a week, and when they do, they'll climb out of the tree and get on the ground to do it. Why they don't just drop a deuce from the trees, I couldn't tell you. Nobody knows what goes on in their heads.
That's what I've been wondering about this whole time. Why don't they just shit out of the trees? If I can do it, y'all can do it, right?
What this means, about half of all sloth deaths involve getting clapped on the toilet like Elvis. One thing sloths have going for them is that they're so mind-numbingly slow that algae actually grows on them, giving them free camouflage. There's a catch. There is always a catch. When one of your biggest ops is an eagle with quite literally some of the best eyes in the world, wearing a moss blanket isn't going to amount to too much. And you know evolution was actually with them, because sloths are actually really good swimmers and can hold their breath for 40 minutes, longer than dolphins and seals. But it means almost nothing when most of the time they go swimming is by accident when they fall out of a tree. And that weak-ass doggy paddle might save them from drowning, but it won't save them from getting murked by an anaconda or a caiman. The really sad part is, sloths could actually be way better than this. Its close relatives, the armadillo and anteater, are able to put the
the giant sloth was a beast back in the day, y'all. That thing killed everybody.
It has to good use, and anteaters have even been known to swing on jaguars. You have a homicidal vacuum cleaner that has put jaguars and people in coffins. And then you have a moss blanket with a face. Just like the kiwi, the sloth used to be better than this. Megatherium, aka the giant ground sloth, was in the same weight class as elephants, and they actually knew how to use those claws. So much so that if Ice Age were realistic, Sid would have worn Diego's ass like a fur coat. But its massive size ended up screwing it in the end. If Ice Age were realistic, Sid would have worn Diego's ass like a fur coat. But its massive size ended up screwing it in the end, as they basically got hunted into oblivion by humans, leaving us now with the virtually defenseless, dead-eyed, slower than molasses algae apartment that we call the sloth. You know that thing on TV where it's like someone gets a genie that grants wishes, but only does so in a way that horribly bends them over in the end, and the moral's supposed to be careful what you wish for? That basically sums up this next animal, because it looks like it got finessed by a genie in one of the most disrespectful ways possible. This is a fiddler crab. Male fiddlers have one giant brolic claw whose only
where's my fiddler club?
Purpose is to get a female's attention. Lady crabs choose their mate based on who has the biggest claw and therefore can pass the best genes to her clutch.
That's a nice biceps, bro.
That is literally the only thing this claw is good for. Because that claw is too big to pick up food, the male fiddler crab can only feed himself with that smaller claw. That massive claw is actually a disability that means the males either eat half the food or take twice as long as the females. The only problem with that is that these crabs only eat during low tide, and the longer the crab spends eating, the more likely they are to end up as someone else's main dish. In the evolutionary arms race for female validation, the male fiddler crab is more likely to end up getting eaten by gulls, raccoons, reptiles, and sometimes even bigger crabs. And since the females enable this by being attracted to the bigger but less functional claws, the fiddler is now trapped in a vicious cycle. By preferring males with a trait that quite literally gets them put on a shirt, the females indirectly screw the next generation. Gotta be careful what you wish for, especially if you're this next animal. Because the peacock has
So the giant biceps is useless. Wow.
The same problem on steroids. We can all agree that the peacock is the biggest flexor in the animal kingdom, and rightfully so. And just like with the crab and basically every other aspect of life, bigger is most certainly better. The more colorful and eye-catching, the better the peacock's chances at bagging
Average is also good.
They'll even shimmy their tail feathers in a way that hypnotizes any female watching. But like I said, never make a deal with a genie. Because the good news is a peacock showing off will always be the center of attention. Bad news is sometimes that attention comes from a 700-pound assault weapon with stripes. And because those tail feathers are so heavy, not only can't the peacock see behind itself, even if it does see death coming, it takes them longer to get off the ground and out of the tiger's reach. Just like with the crab, the peacock's biggest flex is often what gets it buried. In a cruel twist from fate, the peacocks that are safer from tigers are usually the ones that get less attention from females. So by having a preference, the peahens doom their future children to a fate of ultimately ending up as a tiger's toothpick. The peacock and fiddler both got handed massive L's from nature, but at least you can see the thought process behind it. Having huge claws and fancy feathers attracts females, so technically it does serve a purpose.
Listen,
in comparison,
if that, what the hell is that? If that crab could use that giant claw, I would be afraid. I would be afraid of it.
The Luna moth got shafted for no reason at all. To make a long story short, adult Luna moths don't have a mouth and therefore can't eat. The only thing keeping them alive is the energy they stored as caterpillars, but once that runs out, so does their time. Luna moths live for about a week, just long enough to reproduce and doom their children to the same fate of a non-consensual hunger strike. If you ask Google why the Luna moth doesn't have a mouth, it'll tell you because its only purpose is to mate. Which is really nature not giving a fraction of a about them. Yeah, that's cruel. Question is, what could possibly be crueler? Well, if you know what this is, you probably have the answer. This is a sea louse. It's a member of the Caligidae family of copepods, which is basically just a bunch of small crustaceans.
What the fuck?
And you probably noticed that for the peacocks and the crabs, it was the guys getting the worst of it. Apparently, nature believes in a weird form of equality because right now it's up for the girls. The horror show starts when a male sea louse kidnaps a much smaller female and then forcibly drags her into what I can only describe as a crustacean sex dungeon, where he can have up to 20 other victims also trapped. It's at this moment where this movie loses its rating because the male will forcibly impregnate every last female in his burrow, and this often involves penetrating her abdomen. Don't worry, it gets worse.
Wait. What? Abdomen? Oh.
As her brood of children that she never asked for begin to grow, they decide to start eating their way out. Eventually, the mother's body splits open as her nursery of psychopaths rush out of her now mutilated husk of a corpse. This might be one of the only times where the babies abort the mother. She doesn't even really get to give birth. Her children just bring her.
Bro, this is some horror. This is some horror shit. And this is the normal reproduction of this species?
Death. You might be wondering why evolution would even give this nonsense the green light. Well, the newborn sea louse are entering an ocean full of danger, and having a full meal before they make it out on their own apparently increases their chance of survival. And by cannibalizing their own mother, it's basically a home-cooked meal. Somehow, this isn't even the worst birth on this list. That title belongs to the hyena because straight up death is actually better than what they go through. Female hyenas evolved a pseudo-penis that's so similar to the real thing, it's actually difficult to tell males and females apart. This is actually a female. Only problem is, it's not just for show, they actually have to give birth to that thing, and yes, it's every bit as painful as you think. And just to somehow make it even worse relative to the mother's size, hyenas have to give birth to—
So, hyenas basically know what it's like to, if man could give birth. Interesting.
The largest cubs of any carnivore, and they have to do it through a penis. Good amount of first-time mothers don't even survive this because the process involves rupturing and splitting open the pseudo to make it easier for the cub. But the cubs don't get it easy either. About 60% of hyena cubs will suffocate on the way out and become past tense before technically even joining the present. And you would think because this directly affects the mother and the cub that evolution would have patched this. Yeah. But apparently nature and Lion King have something in common when it comes to doing hyenas dirty.
Damn. Oh, damn, bro. 360?
But if we're talking about an animal that got done dirty, this picture kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
In fact,
these pigs, their tusks grow, and if they don't stop growing, they grow into their brains and they die.
This is probably going to be the thumbnail because this is nature at its grimiest. They die. A lot of y'all probably knew this animal is coming just from reading the title, but for those of you that didn't, that was the skull of the babirusa. It's a wild pig found in Indonesian islands like Sulawesi. If you already knew that, it's probably because of those teeth. Those tusks penetrate out of its snout only to do a complete 180 and head right back.
Why they do that, I don't know.
If the male babirusa can't wear down this hellish overbite or he doesn't lose them in a fight, then the teeth will end up growing right back into his head, penetrating the skull and ultimately piercing the brain. But the worst part of it all is that by the time it gets clapped by its own dental plan, the babirusa's probably already had children and therefore passed on its bullshit to its kids. It's a lot like Parkinson's. Okay, hear me out. The problem with Parkinson's is that it usually develops late in life, usually around the age of 60. And patients can have it for years without being diagnosed. Okay. So by the time they do find out, it's possible they could have already had kids and grandkids that they could have passed it off to. See the problem, right? The only good thing is that it's somewhat rare for a child to inherit Parkinson's from their parents. The babirusa, not so lucky. And as long as females find big tusks attractive, and as long as the tusks only murk them after they've had babies, this pig is going to be screwed eternally, and evolution can't even stop it. But when you talk about being sodomized by the fleshy phallus of nature, you're probably talking about cheetahs. If you watch Tirzu, if you're watching this, you probably do. You probably heard him say that cheetahs are F-tier garbage that either need to be buffed or just vaulted out of their misery. I love cheetahs, I really do, but out of every animal on this list, evolution might have bodied the cheetah the hardest, and for one simple reason. Cheetahs are really fast. That is all they have. Cheetahs are a textbook example of why you should never dump all your evolution points.
I remember from Tirzu, their children have the highest mortality rates of any other cat out there.
Because you'll just get bent over in every other aspect of life. Because they're built for speed and absolutely nothing else, cheetahs often get bullied by other predators, especially lions and hyenas. And because cheetahs have to expend so much energy just to make a kill, it forces them to rest right after, which makes it really easy for other animals to just step in and run their pockets.
Damn, bro.
But for real, if you're a cat and a bird that literally only eats the dead is able to run you off, you got a lot of problems. Worst part is, cheetahs could easily avoid all of this. Leopards are also lightweight solitary hunters that occasionally get their food stolen, but they're able
Cheetah's claws were fucked so they can't climb. There was something about that.
Carry their kills up in trees where they can't get harassed by scavengers. But in the evolutionary race for speed, cheetahs evolved non-retractable claws to use as cleats to keep traction while running. Which is why cheetahs can't climb trees, so they gotta get violated on the ground. Cheetahs are such pushovers that one hyena can successfully rob several cheetahs right in their face and then dare them to do something about it.
Damn.
Cheetahs compromise
Damn.
everything for speed, so now they get to speed run
Damn.
through life. About 70% of cheetah cubs born in the wild will be 6 feet under before
And that's a problem because look at how cute they are. And from what I remember on another video I watched, they are some of the most hospitable. Is that really the word? They're not very aggressive towards humans.
first birthday.
So,
just to add on to that, because
you can
why the
have
hell
one
not?
of
Thanks to
those,
genetic
maybe.
bottleneck, a majority of the cheetah population is highly inbred. What you're looking at is a cat that doesn't really know how to cat. Because instead of roaring like lions, tigers, and leopards, the best is spotted
European
doormat can do
nobility,
is chirp
baby.
like a bird. Matter of fact, if you YouTube it real quick, you'll find they make every sound that isn't a roar.
Oh, it's adorable.
And that's how you know evolution went out of its way to them. Cheetahs have been
Sounds
around
like
for about 3
Ina a little
million
bit.
years and decided they were just gonna IM speed their way through life. And because of that, unless it's a 100-meter dash or a bird call contest, this overgrown house cat
Bird call
loses
contest.
every single time. Obviously, there's a lot of good things about the cheetah, but not nearly enough to justify the abuse they go through. Which is probably why a majority
Main problem with the cheetah is the server they're on is stacked as hell,
of
brother.
cheetahs in captivity experience severe anxiety so bad that it prevents them from mating and they need an emotional support dog.
Damn.
Which is cute, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it's another reason why cheetahs are dangerously
sad,
close
though.
to being the pandas of cats, and that's not something anyone wants to be. And don't get it twisted, I don't enjoy roasting cheetahs, I actually really love them, but if
They're
nature
cute
has
as hell.
favorites, this Cheeto's mascot isn't one of them. And those are 10 animals that got the middle finger from evolution.
Damn.
I'm not gonna lie to you, this video was low-key a pain to make. So if you like the video and you'd like to support
Hey,
this
I
channel,
do,
my
brother.
Patreon's gonna be in the description, but please, don't give money if you can't afford it. Because honestly, I don't need money, I just
Sorry, bro, I'm poor as fuck. Hey, listen, this was cool. I'm very surprised about the octopus. I didn't know octopus live like 5 days. I didn't know that. I didn't know about the sex dungeon beetles as well. That is a new for me, brother. This is some scary shit. I see why so many horror movies are taken from beetles. Makes sense. It's not actually a beetle, I understand that, but hey, if you want to see more Hood Nature reactions, not Hood Nature anymore, Casual Geographic, check out the playlist right here. Quick thank you to the YouTubers and Patreons. Thank you all for the support and have a nice day, everybody. Bye.